won the biggest victory in 30 years, gaining complete majority in the parliament and wiping out the Congress party completely. Let's go and talk to some prominent Indians who are here to join in the celebrations today. We have with us Mr. Nath Puri, Professor Nath Puri. So, Professor Puri, did you expect Modi to have this big victory in India?
Not initially, but as the time went on and the vitriol came, then I thought, these people are talking stupid. And people who are listening, they are intelligent people in India. That they must think that, don't they care about 80% of the population, they only care about 15%? Or not care about 85% of the population? And I thought, how can he, and they will talk about Gribi Hatao, but no development. And the more I saw, the more I felt confident. There was Mr. Bhatia on one of the channels in India. He was the one who was saying that it could easily change. People are very polarized now. And who did the polarizing? It was the Congress. It was the SP.
Do you think that the Congress will ever recover from this crushing defeat it's had in these elections?
They are dead for a different reason. And that's why there was so much vitriol that if Modi came, they are now on 44 seats. To fight elections, you need money. Where are they going to get money from? From Italian bank stashed up? They will lose Maharashtra in the next few months. And they'll lose the other states.
Yes, I think they've lost public confidence.
I think public has lost faith. They don't believe. India needs development. India wants development. They don't want charity. That's what I was saying earlier. Everybody wants his hand to be able to give, not to beg. Nobody wants to beg.
We have with us Mr. Abhay Lakhani, a prominent member of the Hindu community. Mr. Lakhani, how do you feel about Mr. Modi's victory?
Well, I think what you've just seen in this hall and yesterday's celebrations, the joy in people's faces to finally get a Prime Minister of India, which seems to have gelled, absolutely gelled with people's feelings, expectations, and I hope that finally the people of India can rest and say, right, we have got a man who will look after us.
What do you think happened to the Congress party?
The Congress party basically died a natural death. Any dynasties, any family-run dynasties inevitably fail. History has always shown from the Roman era that family dynasties take over and rule a country as if it is the divine right. It is no one's divine right to rule over a population. And where they failed was this divinity that they felt that they had the right to rule over India. The Indian population have become quite hardened. And the social media, which has now come into being, which Modi used extremely effectively well, to bring out the message that you don't have to be brainwashed by this family, no longer stand for this corruption. And of course, the social media took control over the mainstream media, which was inevitably being controlled to a large extent by the Congress party. And of course, here what happened is that population came, saw what was happening, and punished the Congress party. I cannot see how Congress can recover from this.
There's been considerable controversy regarding Smriti Irani's educational qualifications and portfolio. What are your thoughts on the matter?
Well, for the last 10 years, we've had a PhD, apparently as our Prime Minister looking after India. The man was so blind that he saw the country being robbed blind, could not see. So education and ability are two different aspects, two different things. Education does not necessarily mean ability.
Thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.
My elder brother, he's a lawyer by profession and he's also a businessman, a totally dedicated president. In fact, he went to India just for the election and he was there for several weeks and he also met Shri Narendra Bhai and he did enormous contribution to the campaigning in Gujarat. And I'm really pleased to say, which you cannot say about very many people in this hall, that Lalu Bhai is the only person in this hall who attended Gandhiji's meeting and he helped Nelson Mandela to fight apartheid rule in Africa. And together with Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji, he was a key person to ensure that Kashmir remains with Bharat. So he has, as you can see now, he has a long relationship with the top leaders of BJP and top leaders in South Africa. I will now request Shri Lalubhai Parikh to come and say a few words. Lalubhai Parikh.
Baroness Verma, our leader Sri Nath Puri ji, Minister for Cooperation Sidhu ji, my friend Thakkar ji, our leader and Sanchalak ji, Sri Dhirubhai ji, and young leader who has just come from India, Manoj Ladwa, trustees of Swaminarayan Temple and other invited guests. We are today celebrating the victory of BJP and NDA in general and that of our beloved Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi in particular. In my lifetime, I have attended two general elections of India, the first and the last 2014. I was a founder member of Bharatiya Jana Sangh. In the first election we lost in 1952-53 was our Gujarat President Sri Harish Singh Ji Goyal, and he contested from the constituency from one of the Saurashtra constituency. It was 60 miles from Rajkot, and in those days there were no helicopters, not even planes, and we workers had to travel with our bicycle on the lorry lift given free of charge. Harish Goyal arranged for our one meal in the evening, and I tell you this, that even Congress in those days stopped. There were no restaurant, it's just their constituency, but there was a VC. VC means you get one hot meal in the evening or in the afternoon. 14 annas was the price of VC. And that too, we were stopped. Congress people threatened them and we didn't get. So we stayed about 3 weeks we went on to have on snacks, gatia, jalebi or whatever you have during the day. This was a hard day. And our aim was, at that time it was sure we want to win it, but we had decided not to lose deposit. And in those days, deposit was 1,500 rupees. And we didn't lose. This time, 2014, I had a privilege to attend the election. I went into 2 constituencies of our Prime Minister and Rajkot. Rajkot and Vadodara was a walkover. Everybody thinks there was no opposition whatsoever, and we have seen the result of Vadodara, 400,000 or something margin. And in Rajkot, we won the seat straight away. But I tell you one thing, the experience I had, in the morning, 30th, I was there, Vajubhai Wada, our speaker was there, and by 11 o'clock, the people were coming in speaking Gujarati, Swayambhu, Swayambhu. So I said, what is it? People were coming in lines and lines, and by 11 o'clock, there was a 50% voting. And everybody knew Narendra Bhai is winning. I went to Varanasi. No plane tickets were available, no booking were available, no hotels were available. So I and one of the Dalit worker, Sri Arjun Bhai, he said, let's go by car. And I traveled by car 1,800 kilometers. And we passed through Gujarat, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh to reach Varanasi. And each town you go, anybody will say, Modi, Modi, Modi. Ab ki baar, Modi Sarkar. And now I say, baar, Modi Sarkar. Narendra Modi, after 1995 election of Gujarat, he was sent as an organizer in our head office in New Delhi. And his contemporary has told me that Narendra Bhai was living in an outhouse of 9 Ashoka Road. Now from 9 Ashoka Road to 7 Racecourse Road, that is the official residence of our Prime Minister, to travel 5 kilometers, it took him 19 years. He worked very hard, and I was told about him that he was interested in writing, and so many books he wrote. He's a poet as well, and he's well dressed. We can call him Neighbor with white kurta and churidar. Well groomed. Columbus સાગર ખેડુ હતો અને નરેન્દ્ર મોદી જોખમ ખેડુ છે. સદીઓ વીતી ગઈ પછી ભારતને એવો સમર્થ શાસક પ્રાપ્ત થયો છે કે જે વિષ્ણુગુપ્ત ચાણક્યને પણ જરૂર પસંદ પડી જાય. મેક્સ મુલરે કહ્યું છે, ઇતિહાસ એટલે માનવીના મનની આત્મકથા. યસ, નવો ઇતિહાસ રચાઈ રહ્યો છે. એક ભય રોકડો છે. મોદી પાસે રાખવામાં આવતી અપેક્ષાઓની વિસ્ફોટ જોખમ ઊભું કરી શકે છે. નરેન્દ્રભાઈ, વર્ષોं आपका समय शुरू होता है. अब हमारी प्रार्थना शुभकामना તમારી સાથે છે. પાઘડીનો વડ છેડે મહાન ગણો દરમિયાન ઇતિહાસ કેવળ એવો જ માણસોને સત્તાની ટોચ પર બેસાડે છે કે જે બનાવોને દિશા પૂરી પાડી શકે. થેન્ક યુ વેરી મચ. વિથ ધીસ નોટ
लेफ्ट लेग आगे आगे राइट लेग पीछे पीछे आजा यारा लेट्स स्टार्ट वे.
Thank you for that short introduction, and thank you for inviting me here this evening. What an amazing period in Indian history the last few weeks have been. It is my pleasure to speak briefly today about the BJP's victory and what it means for us here in UK. Let me first address the BJP's victory and the government Narendra Modi has put together. It is easy when talking about Indian elections to get bogged down in figures, This was the largest ever parliamentary election, the highest turnout in India's history, and the worst result Congress has ever faced. But what is more impressive is a coalition of supporters that backed the BJP. This was BJP's victory, but more important than that, it was Narendra Modi's victory as well. Supporters from rural and urban areas, young professionals from across the globe, businessmen and women, aspirational voters who hate corruption, 10% of the Muslim vote, the BJP appealed to the people of northern India. The BJP won the Christian territory of Goa, and they also won Jammu and Kashmir, predominantly a Muslim territory. So gone are the days when Congress can frighten people and win wars through handouts and subsidies. India is a different country now. A people who want strong leadership, prosperity, the tackle of corruption, and better life. In 1979, in this country, we had a general election in which, after years of industrial dispute and declining living standards, we decided we want a strong leader. Margaret Thatcher to sort out the problems and give us a better life. This is India's 1979 moment, a break from the past and a commitment to a better future. The BJP ran an incredible campaign in India. Narendra Bhai covered an incredible amount of ground, 200,000 air miles, 500 rallies in 6 weeks, and the use of holograms allowed him to reach previously isolated places. India showed how technology can go all in democracy, and the number of young IT campaigners the party had shown that it is a BJP that is a party of the 21st century. But, and it is a big but, there are many challenges ahead. The BJP will need to be strong if it is to overcome the following issues. Firstly, restoring the expected level of economic growth to India, including tackling rampant inflation and welcoming foreign investment. Tackling corruption at every level of government and beyond, including removing the black market. Ensuring that those at the bottom of the ladder are given a chance to climb up economically and socially. Reforming the tax code to bring transparency and certainty. Improving India's infrastructure, in particular the aviation industry, the railways, and the roads. Reforming the tax code to bring transparency and certainty. Reforming the banking system, particularly the state banks. Reducing government spending and eliminating unnecessary and expensive subsidies. Ensuring that all minorities in India, including those of different religions and castes, are protected and included in the modern India. And particularly when you see in the press or on the TV screen lately, the protection of women in India is most important. So any of these issues will be a daunting challenge for a new leader. Fortunately, India have elected a man who will work tirelessly to deliver a better future for India. A future that has been endorsed by millions of Indians of every race, religion, and background. I see that global time for change, time for Modi, and we've got Modi now. Let's hope we have the change. So the exciting times ahead for India and Britain. There's one thing I want to say before I finish, and that is that during the election, I read an awful lot of negative coverage in the British press about Modi. Not a single paper in this country, even the economists said, had a good word about Modi. Not any of our BBC or ITV covered the Indian election. Whenever there's an election in South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, it's well covered by our media, but not this particular election. So And I'm pleased my colleague Priti Patel in the House of Commons did a letter to Lord Hall complaining about the little BBC coverage about Narendra Modi's victory. So all I ask you, my fellow Gujaratis and Indians here, to make sure that we speak for Gujarat, we speak for India, and we make sure that we write to these newspapers. In fact, I would suggest to overseas friends from BJP to employ a specialist marketing or PR company to do articles that should go in the national press to show what the victory of Narendra Modi, his style of leadership, means to India and means to the whole world. Thank you for listening to me.
I will request our speaker, Shri Nath Puri ji. You know Nath Puri ji quite well. He is one of the leading industrialists in this country. He has got multi-million pounds, dollars business all over the world, and he has always supported us, he has always helped us, he has guided us, and we respect him quite a lot. Shri Nath Puri ji.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here at what a great occasion. I was listening to Lord Pope 10 minutes ago. I think what he suggested, we should do marketing about India and about Modi ji and so on. I think we should only do one thing. We should succeed in business, in our economy, and we must always have our hand like this, never like this. The respect will come from our success, not from asking them. Nobody gives you anything you can ask. You have got to earn it, and the earning of it is that we succeed. Like we are succeeding, our next generation and existing generation, if they put a bit more effort, we are getting there. It won't be long. It's a great day to celebrate, and I said it's about 15 days since the results. I was there watching, as was Manoj. It is an election which was won because there was Shri Narendra Modi. Yeah. If he wasn't there, BJP would not have won this election. You have to have. Then there were other people, like Amit Shah. He did a great job. We also had lots of other people working hard. And one of them is here. Again, Manoj, he has been spending a few months here. Of course, Priyanka Gandhi and Rahul. Or one should say in terms Rahul ji and Priyanka ji. Of course, we had Akhilesh ji, Mayawati ji, who said she would not cooperate with the BJP, whatever happens. She has no MP to cooperate anyway. But these are people, they made it so obvious to the common people that they did not care about India's progress. They only cared about their vote bank. They talk about Muslims. If he's against Muslims, Muslims will have this problem, except there was never any problem with Muslims. It is a created problem. I'm glad that in Uttar Pradesh they created so much. All the others went to the other side. And although BSP polled more votes in this election in 2009, they didn't win a single seat. As I said, there's a lot to be thankful, but there's also, these are just things. I was with Advani ji last week. I said to Advani ji that, when he was and promoted as the future BJP candidate for Prime Ministership as the Advani, if you hadn't created the controversy, he would not have been known as much, because every time on the TV, Advani ji is against it. Why are you doing it? But that brought him into the news item all the time. BJP didn't have to create artificial TV issues. Like Kejriwal, he asked somebody to slap him, then goes next day to have apologies for him. So it has been a good fun. I'm glad and I'm grateful to whosoever is involved that we have got a great victory, a great Prime Minister, and we have a very progressive and successful India going forward. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we have got a wonderful video for you. And I'm sure you will be delighted watching this video. And this is about Ganga Mataji. Video is about Ganga ji. Yes, माँ गंगा ने बुलाया है.
न मुझे किसी ने भेजा है, न मैं यहाँ आया हूँ. मुझे तो गंगा ने बुलाया है.
कह रहा है ये जनसभा, इतना स्नेह, इतना दुलार, देश के कोने कोने से आ रही है बस एक पुकार, अब की बार मोदी सरकार. मानव से ऊपर मानवता, मां की शिक्षा हमको सिखलाती, लिख डाले अब इतिहास में, कहे देश का जनाधार, अब की बार मोदी सरकार. है नर नारी सब अभिलाषी, है साथ सभी भारतवासी, गंगा जमुनी तहजीब यहां अब मांग रही अपना अधिकार. अब की बार मोदी सरकार, किसान यहां, जवान यहां, है शिक्षक और छात्र यहां, समर्थन है परिवारों का, मांगे सुरक्षा और रोजगार. अब की बार मोदी सरकार.
न मुझे किसी ने भेजा है, न मैं यहाँ आया हूँ. मुझे तो गंगा ने बुलाया है.
एक झलक जो दिख जाए, दिल से दिल अब मिल पाए. तुम चलो, तुम्हारे साथ चले, मिलकर करें सपने साकार. अब की बार मोदी सरकार.
न मुझे किसी ने भेजा है, न मैं यहाँ आया हूँ.
Some breathing space, actually, he was our next speaker, but as he just arrived, I'll let him catch his breath. So I therefore request you now, Baroness Verma of Leicester. Baroness Verma ji is known to you all. Most of you know Mrs. Baroness Verma ji very well. She is Minister of Energy and Climate Change and has been associated with various educational and other organizations. I've been told that she was invited in India to attend Shri Narendra Modi ji's Rajabhishek. So now I request Baroness Verma ji to say a few words.
Namaste to you all and congratulations to you all. It really is what Narendra Bhai said, time for change. I met Mr. Modi ji in 2002 for the first time. And from then I knew that here was a man with vision who wanted to bring changes, and Gujarat was a great example of good visionary leadership. And Narendra Bhai Modi has actually been able to demonstrate that if you do things by the book, you remain honest to your message and your vision, that everybody will benefit. I and my husband were privileged to be at the oath swearing ceremony. We were there and we can tell you the atmosphere was magical. There was not one moment that you wanted to miss. And we know many of the top team of the government, and each one of them has been given a task to ensure that 1.26 billion people are able to have hope and make sure that that hope is turned into reality. I, like many of you, have been very closely connected with India. But I would like to say this. Modi ji has one message. It isn't about being Gujarati, Rajasthani, Punjabi, or anything else. It's about being Indian. If 1.26 billion people can believe that message, the 30 million people of Indian diaspora need to believe it too. I know Manoj very well, and I can tell you, if there was ever a hard-working young man, it was Manoj. But those of us who have been very closely involved with politics for a very long time, and with the BJP family for a very long time, we knew the day would come when people would get fed up of divisive politics, politics of appeasement, and would say that if somebody who once served tea can become Prime Minister of India, so can we. Brothers and sisters, each one of us has got one thing to remember, and Modi ji said it himself. When Mr. Advani ji, and a very senior person in the party, said that Modi ji had done kirpa, Modi ji said, nobody can do kirpa to their mother. That is how we should see the countries we live in, as service without reward. I'm really pleased that up and down the country, people have celebrated the win of a mandate that we could all be proud of, and those of us who want people to go out and vote need to get people in this country to understand your civic duty. If you do not take up your rights, people come and put in the bad things that we're seeing in politics here today. We are seeing vacuums created where far right are taking the space. We cannot allow that to happen on our soil here. Look over your shoulders, thousands of miles over the seas, and see why people came together. They came together because they want to see change. We want to see a strong diaspora, but a strong UK and a strong India, so that we can have a relationship that each and every one of us is proud of. Thank you very much.
Normally, when I stand on this stage, I begin by saying either namaste, sometimes I say kancho, sometimes I say Jai Shri Krishna. But today, there is only one thing to say. Jai Hind! "15 years ago, I met a man who wanted to become the Chief Minister of Gujarat. He did. What is it about Gujarat? Mahantas K. Gandhi, Sardar Patel, Narendra Modi. These are figures in Indian history that are not passing. These are figures in Indian history that will go down in history. That man became Chief Minister. What did he do? What did he do as Chief Minister? After an earthquake that had made 600,000 people homeless, he managed not to just rebuild after that earthquake, he managed to build metal roads into the villages. to bring electrification into those villages. He managed to ensure that the foreign direct investment that came into his state was greater than that which came into the whole of rest of India put together from his country. More than that, he tackled one of the cancers that has long eaten at the soul of India. He tackled corruption. And if you want to find an answer to why it is that he has received one of the most overwhelming mandates in Indian political history, then you need look no further than that fact. He tackled corruption. And no matter what his enemies say about him, and you will know that they have said much, no matter what, not one of them has ever dared to say that he is personally corrupt or in any way tainted with the political vices that other politicians in India have been painted with. It's not always the case that there are enough political positions to suit everyone's talent, and there are certainly not enough positions of responsibility to suit their ambition. Large majorities come with a heavy price, because you have to provide your own criticism to your own policy. You have to scrutinize more carefully because there is nobody else to do it. So what sort of a man would you want to lead the largest democracy in the world with the largest majority that that country has seen for more than 20 years? You would choose someone who knew where he came from. You would choose someone who had a sense of integrity and a sense of self. You would choose someone whose principles had been unshaken for decades. You would choose someone who had respect for his mother. You would choose Narendra Modi.
भाइयों बहनों, सबसे पहले मैं आपसे विनती करूंगा कि दो हाथ ऊपर करके पूरे उत्साह के साथ आप सब मेरे साथ बोलना, भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! अत्रे उपस्थित OFBJP UK के अध्यक्ष श्री लालू भाई पारेख, उपाध्यक्ष श्री, आमंत्रित मेहमान, भारतीय जनता पार्टी के सारे कार्यकर्ता भाइयों बहनों और यूनाइटेड किंगडम के कोने कोने से आए हुए मेरे सभी भारतीय भाइयों और बहनों, सबसे पहले मैं OFBJP यूके का आभारी हूं कि आज मुझे आपके बीच में आने का मौका मिला। भाइयों बहनों, मैं आपसे एक बात करना चाहता हूं। लोग मुझे मिलते हैं तो लोग मुझे कहते हैं कि मोदी जी, यह आपकी जीत है। लेकिन भाइयों बहनों, मैं आपसे कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जीत मोदी की नहीं है, ये जीत भारत देश के उन 120 करोड़ नागरिकों की।
Ladies and gentlemen, it really is an enormous privilege and honor to be here today amongst all of you to celebrate the massive victory of Narendra Bhai and the BJP in India. It is an extraordinary feat. For the first time in 30 years, India has a single party that will be able to govern without the constraints of coalition. But it also, as Barry Gardner said, gives Narendra Bhai a clear mandate from the people of India to carry out his manifesto commitments. Ladies and gentlemen, I first spoke with Narendra Bhai before he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. I spoke with him in 1999. And it was clear to me all that time ago that here was a man of vision, dynamism, and commitment. A man who was going places, and a man who, when he got to those places, would achieve much, not only for his community, but for his country, and now to influence the rest of the world. Last year, I invited Narendra Bhai to the United Kingdom. At the same time, Barry Gardner also invited Narendra Bhai to the United Kingdom. And I think it's fair to say that both of us got a lot of criticism for that invitation. I, for one, have no regrets that I invited him here, and I know neither does Barry. Narendra Bhai was kind enough to reply to my invitation, and I am looking forward to seeing him in the United Kingdom, hopefully in the not-too-distant future. Ladies and gentlemen, Narendra Bhai's record of achievement in Gujarat speaks for itself. He has transformed that state under his leadership. I read somewhere that if somebody put a proposal to Narendra Bhai, he either said yes or no. There was no room for maybe. And in politics, I'm sorry to say, often maybe is used a little too quickly. India is the third largest economy in the world, and in this century it will be playing a powerful role on the global stage. But one thing is certain: under Narendra Bhai's leadership, it will play a more powerful role on the global stage, and it will do so much quicker. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard many speeches, but we still have the main speech to come. Myself and the others are simply warm-up acts for Sri Manoj Bhai Ladwa, who will follow shortly. And with your permission, I would like to say that not only today do we celebrate Narendra Bhai's victory, but I want to just take a moment to say one or two words about our chief speaker. And it is not my job to introduce him, that is for others. But I give a personal view of Sri Manoj Bhai Ladwa, who will be speaking soon. Ladies and gentlemen, I first came across Manoj when he was a student at the London School of Economics. People leave lasting impressions on first contact, and Manoj certainly did that. Over the years, he has worked hard, achieved a profession, but also worked hard to bring about closer links between Britain and India. And on top of that, he has worked hard for the people of Indian origin within Britain to make sure that they have a more powerful say in what happens in the affairs of Britain. I am going to be particularly keenly listening to what our chief guest has to say, just in case he gives me some tips as to how to win elections with majorities, and I will then report them back to David Cameron and the chairman of the party. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is Shri Subhash Thakurji, who is a senior partner at CPW Blackstone Franks, a city firm of chartered accountants, who specializes in taxation and corporate finances, and he has always supported overseas friends of BJP. Shri Thakurji.
Thank you very much. First of all, many, many congratulations to the overseas friends of BJP. You've done a great job, wonderful job, and you have a great result. People said that we were wondering whether BJP will have an override majority, and there might even be sometimes thought of coalition. And the result has proven beyond doubt where the India is going from here on. And I personally wish to congratulate all those members of the overseas BJP for the work that they have done behind the scenes and also in forward, like Lalubhai Parekh. You already described how much time you've already devoted to this cause, and this has been an enormous success. But ladies and gentlemen, as my dear friend Shailesh Vara has already described, the man of the moment, the man who has done a great job in this work and who's devoted an enormous amount of time being an individual businessman and professional, yet he was able to give, as far as I know, 6 months of his time before this election to this cause. And he was instrumental in the communication activity that took place for BJP. And I think we all know that this particular election has had ingredients of electronic media in a major scale. And it has brought in an enormous level of success for this party. And I think we all have to give him a really good applause. Manoj Ladwa. We've also had, behind the scenes, the benefit of a number of our very senior politicians who have worked in different ways in influencing our government and in improving the thinking. And I think it's important for me to acknowledge their contributions, and Lord Poppet, who was here with us but has moved on, Lady Verma, who has also played an enormous role in the way the government thinking is taking place. I mentioned Shailesh Vara already, Alok Sharma, a Member of Parliament and advisor to the Prime Minister's Asian unit. I really pray, and we should all pray for Narendra Bhai, because the expectation and the hope of people is probably much, much too high than any man can deliver. But let us pray that he has all the strength and support to be able to achieve this success, and more importantly, to demonstrate to the world that a Hindu is not to be feared, a Hindu is more to be respected, and the Hindu values are so powerful and so valuable that they can contribute a lot in this world. Thank you very much.
Namaste. A lot of speakers have spoken earlier. They have focused on, of course, the political scenario that has just been created by the victory of Narendra Modi. I'll touch the other aspect. The aspect of whenever media talks about Narendra Bhai, particularly in the Western media, not even Western, in India media, they said, yes, he's a good administrator, he can deliver things, he can do, but, he has an RSS background. You see, to achieve anything, you need three aspects. One is vision, second is leadership, and third is organization. Without three, you can't do anything. Even Narendra Modi couldn't do it if he didn't have that organization. Let's be very frank about it. And it's very important to understand that Narendra Bhai comes from that parivar, Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh Parivar. And I'm going to speak about the feelings that our Swayamsevaks right across the age of 80, 85 to young who feel today about this victory. It's nothing to do with politics, it's nothing to do with that. It's like one member of my family has achieved something, and what pride one has it is manifested in lot of Swayamsevaks. I've talked across the country and I'm saying here. I'll talk to you about one incident yesterday. I met one Swayamsevak and I was just telling him, why don't you come tomorrow for this celebration? He said, Dhirajji, I can't come, I've got some duties. But he said, Dhirajji, if you meet Manoj, ask him these two questions. And I said, I'll ask him. Whether he'll answer or not, I don't know. He said, one thing is, I'm very fearful. If Narendra Bhai goes to Pakistan, will he be safe? We don't want to lose him. Now, the question was not important. But the feeling that small person had for this leader shows the amount of connectivity that he has developed right across. I met few friends who on the phone, they said, I can't describe of my happiness. This is the work that Narendra Bhai, when he addressed the BJP Parliamentary Board, he said the credit of everything that goes today goes to those silent workers that have worked silently through ups and downs. We have gone through a series where there was a committed establishment who wanted us to be completely demolished. We need to be patient, we need to trust him. I have 100% trust in him that he has dedicated his life for it. He has no connection except India is his everything, whole and soul. Lastly, before I close, I would like to tell that I am also very proud to say today that one of our, Manoj, I know him from very childhood, he played such an important role in this election. And when I had an email from Sir Sanchalak saying that Manoj is an asset to our organization and to India, I felt a lot of proud, and I said, this certification comes from the highest authority in our parivar. Namaste.
Lalubhai Barak, and distinguished guests, good evening to all of you. I am delighted to be here. Actually, this is the occasion to celebrate. India, all of us know, is the largest democracy in the world. And having this exercise to elect a government is equally a tough task. And there are many reasons which are not so peaceful. But even then the people came out to vote to select a government which can deliver. And this time the voting was unique. They elected the government where not only the members of the party voted for the leadership, rather the voting has come across the parties. Even people belonging to other parties, they voted for a stable government, and they believed in a leadership who can deliver. And this time, it was unique in many other aspects, that the whole electioneering that was focused on the personal leadership of Shri Modi. Of course, the organization and the party and their dedication that also paid. But the people believed in the person who has been delivering in Gujarat since last many years. And many of the speakers have mentioned about the achievements. And the young people especially, who were in large numbers this time, voting for the first time, they needed somebody who can especially look for the employment growth of the economy and give a country a stable and secure future. Gujaratis has special appreciation from all of us in the sense that whenever India needed them, they have come forward. When we needed them for independence, they gave us Mahatma Gandhi. When we needed them for integration of the country, they gave us Patel. When we needed them now to rebuild our country, they gave us Modi. Now, any relationship with any country is dependent on basically three factors: love, respect, and equality. With this country, we share the values, we share the democracy, many other things, we share the language also. But our relationship will grow stronger if we give attention to these values. And India is a strong country, third largest economy, and full of talent. And it is not merely a market, it is beyond that. As you are showing your relationship with India, you are showing through respect, love, and dedication. Any relationship in future, if it build on these principles, it will be stronger, it will be lasting, and it will help both the countries and provide an opportunity to grow together. Thank you very much.
It's my privilege and joy to invite Shri Manoj Ladwaji.
भारत माता की मातृशक्ति. Ambassador Madhwani, my sister Baroness Verma, and my two brothers from different sides of the political spectrum, Sailesh Bhai and Barry Bhai, respected elders, sisters, and brothers. चलो अभी क्या सुनना है, पर्दे के पीछे क्या हो? शहजादा की बात करो, मैडम सोनिया, पप्पू लाल, मोहन जी, ये तो सब पुरानी बात है. I'm not interested in the past. But I do want to just refer to them all in relation to one incident early on in the election campaign. Soon as the candidates were announced, one of my tasks was to set up a media center in Varanasi, because the whole of the world's media would come to Varanasi. And on one of those days,
I decided to travel along with a dear friend of mine, Ashok Malikji, who's a journalist, to Amethi, that great bastion of the Gandhi Parivar. It took about 4.5, 5 hours by road to reach Amethi and meet another very dear friend of mine, Smriti Irani. What a star she is. She's younger than me, therefore I can call her Smriti. Smriti had been camped in Amethi for that last week. And when I saw the way in which she was campaigning, the Congress Party had left a nation reeling in corruption. Yes, corruption has existed in India throughout previous governments, but the extent and depth of that corruption was untold, and the shamelessness with which the Congress Party almost brushed it aside, some excuse or other, really made me think that what on earth has this country found itself in. The Bharatiya Janata Party-led NDA government in 2004 left the economy growing at 8.5%. Yes, it was a mistake in communications term, and I now know a little bit about political communication, to call the campaign India Shining. But India was on a growth trajectory. Employment was rising. Inflation was under control. But after 10 years of Congress rule, the first 5 years they enjoyed the fruits of the labours of the BJP-led NDA. The last 5 years, we saw an economy going down to 4.5%. They promised millions of jobs. It was a farce. They promised prices would be under control. Inflation skyrocketing almost into double digit. The average person, I don't know much about my kitchen, but I know that the potatoes and onions that we buy on Ealing Road, Barry, your constituency, were actually and are actually cheaper than in New Delhi. Can you imagine what the Aam Aadmi, the real Aam Aadmi, and I'll come back to that subject a little later on, the real Aam Aadmi would have been suffering. So the Bharatiya Janata Party had almost an open door, a huge anti-incumbency. But friends, I, like many others, and I was just one, who were in the thick and thin of it all for quite some time, didn't quite believe that we would get the sort of mandate that we would. At around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, on the 24th of April 2014, when now those immortal words were said by Narendra Bhai Modi, Na mujhe kisi ne bulaya hai, na main aaya hu, mujhe, and the video said, Ganga ne bulaya hai. The actual words that Narendra Bhai spoke were not, Mujhe Ganga ne bulaya hai. He spoke the words, and the original edit was, Mujhe Ma Ganga ne bulaya hai. And that shabda, that word Ma, for all of us in this room, means something very, very special. It means something very special for Narendra Bhai. It means something very special for me, with my mother here. My mother-in-law as well as my mother, and she's also here. and my 2 daughters. And that word Ma, what happened to it? A so-called secular election commission forced us to edit that word out because it could create some concerns amongst some groups of people somewhere in the country. I hope that in 5 years' time, the Election Commission will take a different view to the sensibilities of a community, of the entire Indian nation, where the word Ma means something that is more special than anything. But also, through the good sanskars and through the very positive work, when Narendra Bhai, as a Swayamsevak, says the battle between Hindus and Muslims is not against each other. In Patna, he says the battle for Hindus and Muslims is against poverty. Where he says to Nawaz Sharif, the battle is not against India and Pakistan, the battle is to rid poverty from the subcontinent. That is what a true Swayamsevak is, and that's what I'm proud of. Jai Shri Ram, Bharat Mata Ki.